Picture a 24-year-old newlywed sitting down and making a promise most people break within a month. A new video every single Tuesday, no exceptions. That kind of unglamorous, boring consistency is the exact same habit that quietly built her a five-figure savings account by the time she turned 24. Then she stacks a second promise on the first, a brand new Friday segment, alongside the Tuesday upload. Two fixed appointments with herself, every single week, forever. Most guys can't keep one promise to themselves. She kept two, and it's exactly that pattern that built the number you're about to hear. Here's the part that makes her squirm. Talking about money out loud, on camera, feels almost taboo, especially as a woman of faith who never wants to seem greedy or money obsessed. But she says it anyway, because saving was never about loving money. It's about buying yourself options. Here's the number, roughly $10,000 saved in about 6 months on a part-time income while living at home. Not a trust fund, not a bonus check, just discipline, some spreadsheets, and 18 bank accounts you're about to learn the reason for. Rewind to when she was 20 years old, still in university. She saved $8,000 and paid for her car in full. No loan, no monthly payment hanging over her for 5 years. That's tier 1 of what I call giving every dollar a job. Before you touch a paycheck for fun money, you decide exactly what each dollar is doing, and a car loan simply wasn't invited. Proof number 2 came later. Her wedding and honeymoon together cost just over $20,000, and she personally saved half of that. $10,000, earned on an ordinary income, sitting ready before a single invitation went out. No credit card floated that day, no loan co-signed by anxious parents, just money that already had a job waiting for it. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. Both of those lump sums, the car and half a wedding, each came together in under a year of actual saving. Not a decade, not someday when I make more. Under 12 months, twice, at two completely different income levels. The strategy repeated because the strategy actually works, not because she got lucky twice. This is where she names what money actually is. Freedom, plain and simple. Not a Gucci bag, not a flex for the camera. Real freedom, the kind that lets you walk out of a house that isn't good for you anymore, or quit a 9 to 5 that's slowly hollowing you out, because you've got the cash sitting there to make the exit on your own terms. You think you need a bigger salary before you can start saving seriously. You don't, and she's proof. She was a full-time student working casual retail hours, not corporate hours. If a 20-year-old juggling lectures and part-time shifts saved $8,000 for a car, the income excuse you've been leaning on doesn't hold up anymore. Let's get specific, because specifics are what separate real advice from motivational noise. In 2017, her job was maybe 12 hours a week at a local supermarket. Stacking shelves, running a register, nothing glamorous. 12 hours a week isn't a lot of money coming in, and even then, the saving habit had already started, just slower than it would later become. Then the hours changed everything. She picked up a new retail job, and her hours jumped to somewhere between 25 and 30 a week. That's more than double her old supermarket shift. Same person, same discipline, but suddenly the raw material, actual hours worked, was there to build something real with. Income alone didn't do it. More hours to apply the same habit did. With those extra shifts stacking up, the $8,000 car fund finally became possible. This is tier 1 of the escalation, fellas. Hours plus habit equals lump sum. It sounds almost too simple to write down, and that's exactly why most guys skip it. They're out here hunting for a hack when the real answer was just showing up for more shifts and not spending the difference. For the wedding fund, years later, she leaned on the exact same foundation. Living at home with her parents, rent-free, no lease of her own eating into her paycheck. That single decision, staying under her parents' roof a little longer than her friends did, is quietly one of the biggest savings levers most 20-somethings refuse to pull because it feels embarrassing. It isn't. It's math. Her hours ramped up again, too. Part-time through most of that year, jobs stitched together, then full-time by the time December rolled around. Notice the pattern repeating. Rent-free housing plus rising hours plus a habit she never dropped. It's the same formula from her 20s, just applied a second time, at a bigger dollar amount, because life kept asking for bigger numbers. Fast forward to now, she's married, out of her parents' house for the first time in her life, 4 months in, and she'll tell you straight, she's not perfect at this anymore. Rent, bills, groceries, a shared life, all of it landed on her at once, and her expenses are simply higher than they were when mom and dad covered the roof over her head. Here's the pattern interrupt most people miss. Her income actually went down after marriage, not up. She dropped to 4 working days a week instead of 5. You'd think less income means less saving, but that's not automatically true, and her next move proves it. It's not about how much lands in your account, it's about what happens to it after. Let's put a real number on the table, because vague numbers are useless. Her old full-time salary was about $40,000 a year. Say it out loud. 40,000. Not 6 figures. Not some influencer fantasy income. An ordinary, unremarkable salary that most people would call barely enough to survive on, let alone save $10,000 against. And here's the part that should sting a little. She'd spent 5 years in university, walked away with 2 separate degrees, and still landed a starting salary most people would call modest. If you're waiting for the right salary before you start saving seriously, you might be waiting your entire career. The number was never the point, the habit was. Even with a lower income and higher expenses than before, she still keeps a genuinely decent amount put away, and it's not sitting in one lump account either. It's spread deliberately across several separate savings buckets, each one built for a different purpose. That's the 18 account system starting to reveal itself, and it's about to become the single biggest lesson in this entire video. On top of her regular paycheck, she's also got a small side stream of income from her channel. Not life-changing money, she's honest about that. Some months barely a trickle. But even a small, inconsistent second stream, treated seriously and fed into the same savings system, adds up over a year in ways a single paycheck never could on its own. Alright, tier 1 of her actual system, and this is where it starts changing how you see every paycheck. Build a spreadsheet. List every single expense you have, absolutely everything, no matter how small or embarrassing it feels to write down. Most guys think they know what they spend. They don't. The list is where the lying to yourself stops. And she means everything. Coffee runs, bubble tea, lash appointments, nail appointments, if that's your thing. Every streaming subscription quietly draining $3 here and $8 there. These feel too small to matter individually, which is exactly why they're dangerous. A pile of $3 charges is still a real number by the end of the month, whether you tracked it or not. Once every expense is on the list, add it all up for however often you get paid, in her case every 2 weeks. That total is the real number, the exact amount you need coming in just to break even before a single dollar goes towards savings or fun. Most people never calculate this number, and it's terrifying how many are running a personal deficit without knowing it. This next one is where it actually changes everything, fellas. Tier 2. Open a separate bank account for literally every purpose in your financial life. Not one account for everything. A different one for every job a dollar has to do. Her husband taught her this, and it sounds excessive until you realize it's the entire reason her money never quietly disappears. 12 of her accounts, just 12, are dedicated purely to everyday living expenses. Rent, food, phone, insurance. Each bill gets its own dedicated account so money never mixes and gets accidentally spent on the wrong thing. It sounds like overkill until you realize this is exactly why she can look at any account and instantly know if she's on track or falling behind. Then 3 separate rainy day accounts, each for a specific kind of uncertainty. One for genuine emergencies, a sudden surgery, a sudden crisis. One for future travel, funded lighter right now since her plans got paused. And one, half joking but half not, sitting ready in case a baby shows up sooner than planned. Every possible curveball already has money waiting for it. On top of that sit 3 more savings accounts. A joint house deposit account shared with her husband, a personal savings account that's hers alone, and a separate short-term savings account for smaller goals. That's a house, a future, and a personal cushion, all being built simultaneously in parallel instead of one vague pile of money she'd have to mentally divide up later. Add it up. 18 accounts, all with the same bank, and here's the detail that surprises everyone. She pays 0 fees for any of it. No monthly charge for having that many open at once. It's essentially free filing cabinets for her money. If systems like this hit different than the usual scattershot budgeting advice, subscribe. This channel breaks down exactly this kind of no-fluff money talk, regularly. Tier 3, and this one's boring but it'll save you real money. Set your bills to direct debit. Every recurring payment, insurance, subscriptions, rent if you can, set to pull automatically on the day it's due. You never have to remember, never have to trust your own memory on a Tuesday when you're distracted by literally anything else in your life. Here's the psychology behind it. When money leaves your account automatically, you never feel it go, and that's the whole point. Manually paying a bill physically hurts a little, so it's tempting to delay it a week, or skip it entirely if things feel tight. Direct debit removes that temptation completely. The payment just happens, whether you feel like dealing with it or not. She'll admit this one honestly because it happened to her. She once let her car insurance lapse, didn't have it set to direct debit, and simply forgot a payment. Real consequences followed, the kind that cost real money and real stress. Exactly the situation direct debit exists to prevent. One missed manual payment undid weeks of careful saving in a single afternoon. But don't swing too far the other way. Set up too many separate direct debit arrangements, especially across joint accounts at different banks, and the fees can quietly stack up against you. The fix is picking one bank that doesn't charge for internal transfers the way she did, so the system saves you money instead of nibbling it away in the background. This next tier is the one that actually changes everything, more than any spreadsheet or account structure ever could. Live strictly within your means, not close to your means, not basically within your means. If your income covers your expenses with money left over, that leftover isn't an invitation to spend, it's the entire reason you're able to save it all. Here's exactly how guys sabotage themselves. They see $500 of breathing room every payday and think, I could put something on a credit card, I can obviously cover it. That thinking is precisely where people lose everything. 3 real losses stack up fast here: a new car you didn't need, an upgraded phone plan, a credit card balance quietly growing behind your back. She's honest that the temptation never fully disappears. She still wants a Chanel bag, a Gucci bag, the same as anyone scrolling their phone at midnight. The difference now is simple. She doesn't buy it unless the actual cash for it is already sitting in her account. Desire didn't go away. She just refuses to let desire write a check her savings can't cash. Tier 5, and it's a simple rule that fixes almost every money problem guys have. Buy everything outright. If you don't have the full cash for something, you don't buy it, full stop. Not the car, not the phone, not the couch for your new apartment. If a debt collector could ever call you about it, you weren't ready to own it yet. Even with that rule, she isn't debt-free entirely, and she'll tell you that straight. 2 things sit on her books: a student loan from university, which is basically unavoidable for most people, and 1 small car loan she picked up more recently. 2 debts total, deliberately kept as small and as few as humanly possible, by someone who otherwise pays cash for everything. Her first car she paid for entirely in cash, handed over the money and drove away debt-free, feeling genuinely free behind the wheel. She planned on keeping that car for a decade. Then a car accident, completely outside her control, totaled it. The insurance payout wasn't generous enough to replace it outright, and suddenly the outright cash plan hit a wall nobody could have predicted. To replace it, she needed roughly $1,000 to $2,000 more than the payout covered, and that gap became her 1 small car loan, the loan she genuinely wishes didn't exist. She paid down as much of it up front as she possibly could, keeping the borrowed amount tiny, but the lesson stands. Sometimes life forces debt on you even when you did everything right beforehand. Here's a number that'll annoy you. A phone plan around $110 a month, locked in for 2 years, adds up to about $2,640 total. She bought the same phone outright for around $1,900. That gap, roughly $700, is money you paid purely for the privilege of not waiting a few extra months to buy it in cash. Tier 6, and this is where most of the real savings actually hides. Lower your expenses everywhere you realistically can. You think that means starving yourself of every joy in life. It doesn't. It means getting honest about which costs are necessary and which ones are just habits you never questioned. She got her own recurring expenses down to close to the lowest they could possibly go. Real example, she pays $290 a week for a 3-bedroom house with a backyard, close to the city, close to restaurants, close to everything she actually needs. It's an older house, admittedly. Nothing brand new or flashy about it. She chose lower rent over a nicer address on purpose, trading a little comfort now for real financial freedom later. Tip 6 had another layer most guys skip: food. She cooked at home almost every night instead of ordering in, because takeout is where 20s budgets quietly bleed out. Picture this: one $20 delivery meal twice a week adds up to $2,080 gone in a year. That's a used car. That's 3 months of rent. She never let it happen. Socializing didn't stop, it moved. Instead of meeting friends at restaurants where the bill somehow splits into $40 surprises, she invited people over, brewed coffee at home, or met them at a park for an afternoon. Same friendships, same laughs, none of the markup. If your circle only knows how to hang out with a menu in hand, that's a habit worth breaking. Here's the part people misread about frugal guys and girls. She wasn't a hermit. For a real occasion, an anniversary, a milestone, a friend's engagement, she'd walk into a nice restaurant and pay full price without hesitation. The rule was never spend. It was know exactly when spending earns its place. Now here's math that should make you angry. A typical phone plan runs about $110 a month. Over 2 years, that's $2,640 for a phone you could buy outright for under $2,000. She paid hers off in full, then found the leanest plan with solid data. Her bill now, $39 a month, 100 saved every year. Same logic applies to streaming. You don't need every platform running at once. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Spotify, all stacked on top of each other, each one quietly renewing at midnight while you forget it exists. Pick 1, maybe 2, that you actually use every week. Everything else, watch free or don't watch. It's not deprivation, it's refusing to pay for content you're not consuming. Insurance told the same story. On her first car, brand new to the whole game, she loaded up on every extra: rental car coverage, windscreen cover, all of it, and her premium climbed to $120 a month. She stripped it back to the essentials, raised her excess to around $150, and now pays around $70 to $80 a month, nearly half the price. 6 tips in, and here's the one that decides whether any of it sticks. You can build every spreadsheet, every direct debit, every rainy day account, and still torch it in one weekend without this self-control. You'll want the new bag, the new shoes, the reason it's basically a good deal. She still feels that pull. The difference is she waits until the money already exists before she moves. One trick made restraint easier: swapping quality obsession for quantity math. Instead of dropping $70 on a single designer top, she'd buy 10 cheaper pieces for that same $70. Same closet variety, same fresh outfits every week, a fraction of the guilt attached to any one purchase. It's not about wanting less, it's about buying the same excitement for less money, and routing the difference straight into savings where it actually compounds. Self-control also means saying no out loud. No, she wasn't showing up to every event to avoid feeling left out. No, she wasn't matching every friend's spending to keep pace with the group. She sat down, figured out who and what actually mattered to her, and let everything outside that short list get a polite decline. Guarding your money, it turns out, starts with guarding your calendar first. This whole system took her 7 years to build, not 7 days. She got her first job at 17, and for years afterwards she spent almost everything that came in, the same way most of us do at that age. Nobody hands you financial discipline at birth. You assemble it slowly, mistake by mistake, paycheck by paycheck, until the habits finally start outrunning the impulses. Now, at 24, looking back at that 17-year-old version of herself, she's honest about the regret. If she'd banked even a portion of every paycheck back then instead of spending nearly all of it, she'd be sitting on a much bigger stack of savings today, instead of partly rebuilding it after a wedding and a move out of her parents' house. Call it 7 years of compounding she can't get back. That's the real cost. This video was never the whole story, it was the foundation. She's already planning a follow-up specifically on wedding budgeting, because a wedding is where good habits either hold under pressure or completely collapse. Think of everything you've heard as the compounding account she built first, brick by brick, long before a single wedding expense ever touched it. Without that account already funded, the whole celebration gets financed by debt instead of discipline. So here's my ask. Drop your own best savings tip below, the one nobody talks about, because half of building a compounding account is stealing good ideas from people already doing it. And if straight talk about money like this hits different than the usual fluff, subscribe. I put out exactly this kind of talk, regularly. Your 20s are the account. Every dollar you don't waste now funds the life you want later.